meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Dr. Versta?
Yes, I want to say good evening to everyone, staff, and visitors, and board. I'd like to ask Mr. Roger Campos to open our meeting up for our invitation. I would like to pledge allegiance, please.
Thank you, sir. Lord, please bless this meeting with your wisdom and love. Help us to be open-minded and to listen to others with respect. We are grateful for the opportunity to come together as a group of people who share a common goal. Grant us the grace we need to work together, trusting in your strength and power. Please send your love and protection to those who are in attendance for this meeting. Bless their hearts and minds and help them find the strength to make good decisions. In your name we pray, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Mr. Campos.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, we have no recognition, so we'll move on to item 4, public comments. Mr. Okay, so nobody. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Board, you've had that to go over. Do we have any questions?
I got a couple of questions on B, C, D, E, and that's it. I got a couple of questions. My questions is on B, item B, Southwest Legacy High School Hawaiian band trip. It says 0 on the board packet for that, and then it says 174,000 to be raised and fundraised by our school or band program. I guess our band boosters, outside source. So my question is, are we gonna help them, or because it says fiscal impact? So I'm figuring, and then it says 174,000, and then on the other thing it says 0. So I was like wondering if we're gonna help them in any way coming forth. That's just we're voting on the overnight.
Yeah, since the fundraising needs a long runway for our students, what we're trying to do tonight is to commit to the trip. We're going to come back to the board in the future when we have conversations with the booster club and with the families and parents, and make a recommendation to the board if they want to contribute something to the trip. But the way that we're trying to bring this information tonight is just to confirm that we're going to allow this overnight trip to take place. It's one of far distance, and we've done it before. We've come to New York with different groups and things like that. So that information is going to be coming. It's going to evolve, and as soon as we can kick off the school year and get into our meetings and bring what we think is a recommendation, does it set the precedent? Whatever we do here, we'll probably do in the future. Mr. Flores is here. Well, I know he's written a document that we're going to bring back to the board that says how we're going to address these things to happen, at least in one experience during the 4-year experience of every student who's in a program, if they want to participate in these. But we did not want to come asking for finances yet. We just want to confirm the trip, and then we're going to come back and have that conversation with the trustees.
Okay, item C, can you elaborate on item C, sir?
Yes, sir. So we're asking the board to approve some revenue increases. One will be to TRS on behalf. It's a flow through that we get from the state. And so that's one of the increases to revenue. The other is we receive funds from the Department of the Navy, Department of Defense, for our ROTC program. They fund our ROT instructors and some supplies. And then the rest of the changes to the board is really moving monies around to cover some expenses and invoices that are late in the summer. And then our campuses are getting ready to come back. They're moving money around to try to get set up so they can buy custodial supplies and office supplies and things to get started up. Because remember, we're going to close out this budget, so they have a small budget, small window to purchase some items to get ready, and then we'll give them a new budget in September. So that's what really the detail of the board.
And item D, I had asked the question earlier because due to the fact that I saw a 10% increase for every year, so it threw us over the $50,000 threshold. And then so I asked the question earlier, and I just want to present to the public that what you were saying, so I'll let you elaborate on that.
So I just want to, before you do that, I wanted to comment that 10% you talk about increase is only if you do the automatic renewal. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it says renewal, it says every year for renewal.
Automatic.
Automatic.
Yeah.
So anytime we renew, it's gonna 10% increase. So we renewed it, and it threw us over the threshold of 55, which I elaborated with him to see if it was true. So he said yes, it kind of threw us over.
Yeah, if we do
The rate did increase, and so, that being said, we worked, and I know James here and Roger's here, they're working on another program. It's less expensive, and we're working on getting that set up, and we're gonna implement that this year to kind of clean ourselves off the line. So it's kind of late to make that change now, going into the school year, especially with all the safety things, and making sure we have communications to change. And so they're working on a new platform, and this time next year, we should be completely off the line, because it has increased over time, the expenses, and that happens with software. And I think we found something better, with more gadgets, I would say, different types of platforms that we can use for a lot better price. And so this will be probably our last year with the Remind, unless we get this other product and we find out it's not as good as we thought it was. But moving forward, our idea is to move away from the Remind and move to this other platform.
So we're not doing it at the beginning of this year, that's what I understood at the meeting.
So, yeah, we're gonna keep in mind for next year, we're gonna have this other platform that we're gonna start implementing.
So that will start next year.
Yeah, because we don't wanna do it now, and we're gonna already be in August, and having to get it set up, get everything fixed, and set up right, and training, and all that, people know how to use it. But the idea is to wing off, and then next year, going into the spring and into the next year, we implement this new program.
Thank you.
That's all my questions, ma'am.
Thank you. If there's no more questions, I need a motion.
I move.
Second.
James moves, Flo seconds. Okay, moving on to item 6, items of information, construction update.
Yes, ma'am. Today we have Rafael Barajas. He has an update on our aquatic center, and then he's joined with Doris and Norman Moss, so I'll turn it over to them.
Good afternoon. Here to present the construction update, we have James Nitschka and Sean Bacon with Marmon Law. If I can. Let me find this one. Sorry. No, there we go. I'm used to my way of naming things, I'm sorry. Okay. We'll go through this one and then just show the drone at the end.
Okay, all right. All right, well, good evening. We're there. We have a TCO. We have 30 days to wrap that up. That's typically the condition for getting your final. So with that, yes, it does look like this. We didn't have to make any changes. We didn't have to push anything aside. We're at pay app number 18, 97%. It's actually a little further than that now. That's really good. We say 99% complete because what we're talking about now are MEP trims, insulated panels, the trim. Those are all up. It's just now all the trim work. It's all the final stuff at this point. So we're looking really good. Everything is going and flowing very nicely, and we're going to finish in time for the grand opening on August 11th. So we're shooting, we're good. There's water in the pool. It's circulating, and it looks good. And the ventilation system and accesses through that to keep the air smelling good, you're going to love it. You're not going to notice any foul airs that are typical of indoor pools. So we're very proud of how that's worked and how well the contractor has made that come to fruition. So here we are. Here's really the north side, the front side of the facility. It's not really the main entry. To the right here, let me see the mouse. Here's your main entry. When I took the latest photos, I didn't get the most romantic pictures to show you, so, okay, good, okay. So, as we move on, now we're around, this gives you a really good idea of where we're at and how we're closed in. Things are coming together quickly. The landscape looks beautiful. I got to tell you, they've got an exceptional landscaper and a final grade person. Here's the interior shots. As you can see, it's coming along and pretty much feeling complete. It's a nice feeling. Air conditioning feels really good. I like doing the punches now, now that it's conditioning is in the space. Speaking of punches, we actually have done one at this point for storage rooms so that Rini and his team can get their equipment in there. So they're already loading up for that, and a lot of the training has been done or is being scheduled for completion for pool systems, the use of the facilities, HVAC and such. Here's the space. You can see water's in there. That water is pretty clean and nice. So I can't wait for grand opening here. So again, this facility is not a dehumidified system. It is where we open up the louvers that you see to the left right here and the doors down here. And that creates a natural ventilation in there. And that space is going to be fantastic. There's some more pictures. Your meet room down here. There's actually 2 of these types of spaces. Your aquatics, or not aquatics, but athletics offices down here. The interior finishes for the restrooms, pretty much complete. Matter of fact, we're punching most of those spaces this Thursday. The admin area and most of the first floor. And that's where we're at. And so for the drone, when we actually have a drone, this is the latest. When was this flown?
This was flown on Friday.
Friday.
So the drone video.
So it's spectacular.
Just to speak on our end, furniture has been delivered on, I think it was actually Wednesday, Thursday, and a little bit of Friday of last week. We're still continuing with district purchased items. Technology will be coming up and installing the switches to make the network live on the aquatic center so we can start filling it with people now that it's filled with water. So we're in the process and continuing to develop that and include all of the district purchased items. Everything that we purchased is on schedule. So by August 11th, you should see a fully furnished facility.
Is that right before the landscape was done?
Actually, what you don't see, the grading is part of what is a critical item to us. What you don't see is the hydromulch and the establishment of that hydromulch. Quite frankly, it's a little too hot. Some of that may not even germinate right away. So that's part of the problem there. So waiting for a little bit cooler temperature. But yes, but what I mean by the landscape, trees are in, shrubs are in, and it's beautifully groomed. So that's part of what I'm happy about, because I didn't have to come back there and ask them to redo it. It was done right the first time, which hats off to the GC for getting it there.
And that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up, because yes, unfortunately we're a little beholden to the weather as far as planning goes, but like Sean said, all the major landscape parts are done.
All right.
I noticed you're both smiling a lot more.
We'll see. Yeah. It was
To
a
the first
big
body that
push
goes
to
in
get
the
that
water.
TCO. Very proud of our team. They work so hard, and we haven't let up. I mean, up until the 10th of August. I mean, we're going to be pushing as hard as we can to really clean that up and make it a presentable space that everybody's going to be hopefully really impressed with. So.
And considering all the roadblocks throughout the entire project, I'm very impressed and happy with what they've delivered. So, excellent.
I want to thank both of you.
Yes, thank you.
For a great job keeping up the fight, too.
Thank you all. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just a small update on the wrought iron fencing project. They have started Big Country, if you guys had a chance to drive up there. Skull Valley and P Road. We're waiting on the aluminum for gates, but as soon as that's done, they're gonna start installing the gates and painting for the final paint. Right now, what you see is red primer on the post, but paint should be shipped tomorrow so they can start doing some panels on the wrought iron fencing.
How are the playgrounds? You're gonna talk about the playgrounds? Okay,
Thomas is gonna give us an update.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am, the playgrounds, currently Sun Valley, Southwest Elementary are completely finished. Meadow Creek was poured this past Wednesday. They started putting in the foam and laying down the green turf on it this week. They have demoed, or are in the process of demoing at Spicewood, and then they will be forming that and moving forward, not going as fast as what we had hoped. We are still pushing to get them to have more crews working, but we're pushing them to try and finish as many as we can before summer. Right now, to be totally honest, I don't think we're gonna finish them all. There will
Yeah.
be some schools that are still lingering, maybe in the middle of the process when school starts. So we are trying to keep the principals abreast of upfront of when they're gonna be starting and going from there.
So do you think it's better just not to start them and then have it torn up during school and do it like, could we do it maybe during the holidays? Like spring break and Thanksgiving and
It's about
Christmas?
from the time you start demoing it till the time you finish. Originally, they were saying 3 weeks. It's really more around 4.5 weeks to finish it. So there's not really a break. I mean, we could wait and start it either before or after and hopefully have like be less time on them. But I don't know if there's ever a break where you're gonna get one finished completely in that time period.
Well, I hate to have the schools 4 weeks without the playground.
That's right.
That's a long time. So is it something that we could do part now and then part next summer?
We could probably postpone the rest of it to next summer. I know that more likely, I mean, labor costs and prices go up. It'll be extended.
The volatile one right now would be the concrete pricing. We don't really know what it's doing.
We'll have a contract that has the substantial completion, and if it goes what we ask, we'll do on that.
Okay.
It'll cost us, I mean, we can look at it and talk to them, and we can give them a little more pressure that we'd like to have more done before the start of school and see what that really looks like. Like Thomas said, they're taking about 4 weeks per site, so even if we did one over Thanksgiving break, it's still going.
It's not, yeah.
mean-
So they're taking more time because they don't have enough employees or because the
The-
stuff's not coming in on time?
No, everything has come in. Even the canopies actually arrived last Thursday. So of the schools now, as we go, you will see not only the finished turf, but they will also put the canopies up because Sun Valley and Southwest Elementary were the first two to be done. They already had canopies. So now, as we continue on, like Medio Creek, they already have the piers and everything set. They're working on setting this week, setting the new shade canopy over it. So those were the ones that we were kind of waiting on, thinking they were going to come in late. They're here now. So it will be a continuous process. I just don't know. I would have to work with the contractor to see if we could push it to the not and hold the pricing.
So she's asking, is it more labor versus?
Oh, well, in that problem, I think it's more the scheduling between going from demo to concrete to the turf guy. So the turf, the crew that's doing the turf, they're on the concrete before it's even getting, the forms are even getting wrecked off. So it's the process where I think we're losing time is it's taken the concrete guys longer to put in the fill to get it to the height that needs to be than they anticipate.
Okay.
So that would be where we would need more crew is in
So
the
you're
concrete
doing a
portion.
demo, they finish that demo, that crew goes to the next school demo.
That's
it's
the way
this
they've been trying to stair
concrete,
step it. And
okay.
I am pushing for them to stair step, but have 2 stair steps going. That way we could finish 2 at a time instead of doing only 1 at a time.
Mhm.
You know, one thing we can do, Mr. Dolkin, is talk to the contractor as we get in August, a couple of weeks down, have a better idea, and then get feedback from our principals to see if they have a preference of staving it off or to just go straight ahead, maybe have it done 2 weeks after.
Yeah, well, we don't want to mess with that contract and then
Spice-
spend a lot more.
Spicewood is probably the tightest campus. Spicewood and Sun Valley are the ones that have the tightest least play space. Spicewood will be done
Okay.
based on the schedule we're doing right now, and Sun Valley's already done. Like some of them, like Crewald and some of the others have a bigger play area, field space for the kids to play, have recess, even not having. Sun Valley was really the one that was the tightest, where when they didn't have the playground, all they had was their blacktop. And so
Oh,
that
yeah,
was-
like Elm Creek has all that
Yes, ma'am.
property.
It just would
So
be they
start
would.
to finish is 4 weeks.
That's how they're.
That's been what
That's
they've
what
been
it's
kind of
been.
cranking, the way
Okay.
they've been cranking them out.
Well, you gotta get it done, so,
Okay.
but the whip.
All right. If I can, real quick, Sun Valley Elementary School, Paul Mathis is here. But just an update on Sun Valley, that project is fully underway. I believe that we have a handout there in front of you. So there's a few pictures in there. It looks like a mess right now. because everything's torn up. I'm gonna knock on wood, and I know everybody's looking for rain, but it's been helping us on this project because any rain now would really slow us down. So it doesn't need to rain at Sun Valley Elementary. So if we go in with that rate, the contractor's on board to finish, but it's gonna be very tight to the start of school. So there are some things that we've prioritized with them that we need to have done to make sure that even if we do get some weather, those are not areas that the areas that they don't finish would be they wouldn't get in the way of starting school. So they're starting at the bus drop-off area, working back towards the playground, because on the other side, it's just sidewalks for emergency exiting of the building. So I don't know if you want to say anything else on Sun Valley.
Yeah, right now they pretty much finished all the excavation around the building and are going back in, replacing the retaining block that goes between the bottom of the perimeter beam and the void space underneath the building. And they're working on getting those grouted back in. And then a lot of the geogrid has already gone back in and started to come back up from the excavation around the building, and all the area vents are being replaced in that area around the courtyard in the back of the building. So those should be in place, within the next week or week and a half. And they started doing some of the grading work, around the front of the school and also the sides to improve the drainage away from the building.
And talking to the contractor at our meeting this past Monday, their plan is to be by Sunday this week, hopefully ready to start laying asphalt. So they're pushing to try and get it done. So
Does the church have the same problems we do?
honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
The church is probably not built on a pier and beam foundation.
Yeah.
So if their stuff moves, it's all moving together.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the only other item that we have is Crewald Elementary. I know the board approved redoing the corridors and cafeteria floor. The colored tile did not come in as of today, it's still not in. We have the field tile. Based on that, knowing the time we have left, and to get the floor waxed, we're gonna look at pushing that project back and doing it in phases during the year, or maybe even holding off till next summer, depending on when the colored tile comes in. It's just been not able to get with the supply chain issues that we're having. So I've already discussed that with Ms. Hidalgo, and so we're gonna move forward that route. I just wanted to let y'all know that we're gonna phase that one in through the year if we can.
Okay. Thank you, Thomas. Is that it for construction?
That is.
Okay. So we have the monthly tax report.
Yes, ma'am, we're right on task, right on par where we were last year, right at 96%. Hopefully by the end of August, we'll be at 99. We're shooting for 99.5%. So it's been good.
Okay. Monthly financial report. If y'all have any questions on that, and the investment report, get with Brandon. We have the report on gifts and bequests. Enrollment report. Do you have anything on that, Lloyd?
What we're seeing is the last week, we looked at our enrollment, we're doing a comparison from the 18-19 to this school year, and we're hovering around 13.4 for enrollment. And so we have a lot of strategies that we're going to employ to make sure that we can bring more students back. We're going to start this school year in full face-to-face module, and so we think that's going to be a benefit. As we look at our refined 88 from last year, we're sitting at 88% and change, which is probably the lowest in history, and some of that was self-inflicted from that little virtual program that we kept for most of the year. And so we think we'll bounce back. Our goal is to get it up towards 94%, then continue from there. But yeah, we have some work to do in that area, enrollment and getting our students here on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you, Lloyd. We have the review of purchase over 50,000. Budget and compensation update.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, calendar of events. Any questions on that? If not, budget and compensation.
All right, thank you. I'm going to start kind of with just some assumptions. Today I'm going to spend more time on compensation. A lot of districts have moved on compensation, and so to really help budget, give me better numbers so I can run scenarios, We really want to kind of get that on track on what we want to do as a district. So I'm going to show you some different scenarios, but really talk about a recommendation that I think will best fit for us as far as what we compare to other districts. Unfortunately, and I apologize, it's a huge packet. It covers everything, all the scales, also all the stipends. There's some stipend increases, some decreases, some recommendations. And I'll try to go through those, but I apologize because I didn't number that packet, so we're going to have to kind of like tell you, go to this page and give you the titles. So it's assumptions, I keep working those projections as I get better numbers in. We just finished our summer PEMS submission data. And like Dr. Versa said, we finished the year with an 88% ADA, which really put us around 11,300 for ADA, which is a significant decrease in revenue. Pretty much it's like almost every percent we lose in ADA is a little over $1 million of funding. And so we definitely need to get a lot better next year. Different things that we can do. Not doing virtual will really help. Our enrollment in 18-19 was around 13.8. Currently we're sitting, and the PEM submission was like 13.39 or 13.4, right at 13.4, which is, it's back. It was lower than that. It's kind of going back up. So I'm projecting, we did staffing and we did budgets off 13.4 and budgeted every campus based on what we projected for their campuses. And then I'm using our traditional trend data of 93.9, almost 94% for ADA. So I can use that to project out what our revenue might be for next year. And then one of the most important things I really need to talk to you, which is a big item today, is the property value growth that we had. We had over 32% of property value increase, which is really good news on for a couple things. But remember, and I have to mention this because it's part of our first rating, in the past when we got a growth rate, especially for when you weren't a part of the budgets, when we had that, it was really good because when we got that growth rate, we got that extra revenue, and the state didn't know we got that extra revenue, but now they went to current values, and so we don't get that extra bump. But the state realizes that you're getting richer, so they take away from your foundation payment. So it's not like we're going to get extra revenue, it's just where our revenue comes from is going to be different. Next steps really for property value and our tax rate will be next week. We'll get our real values. On July 25th, we get our certified values. When we get those, we'll be able to really run what our M&O rate's going to be. I kind of can already tell you what our INS rate's going to be, and then at the end of August, we'll adopt the tax rate. But next week will be the telltale. They're going through all those protests still. They're getting really close, and hopefully by July 25th, by law, they have to give us a certified value, so they should be, and they haven't let us down yet. Once that happens, I submit that to the state. The state will give me basically our M&O rate. They tell us what our rate's going to be, and so it's really taken out of my hands at that time. So based on the data that I do have, and I'm looking at the top line, the three different revenues that we get local revenues, that's our taxes. So when we collect taxes, that goes into that bucket. Our state revenue is our foundation payment from the state based on our ADA and our special populations. And then we have some other federal revenues that we receive, like SHARS payments and things that we get revenue on. And so in 21-22, the projection in our budget was $142 million. Using kind of the data I have now, I think it's going to be a little bit less than that, around 141, but that's basically saying that we're going to have a 93.9 attendance rate, and our ADA stays at that 12.4 number. Remember, it'll fluctuate up and down depending on that number. So, looking at our expenditures, this past year we did adopt a deficit budget. We did a compensation plan last year as well. We went into the year with already a deficit budget. So if you just look at 21-22, $142.5 million, and if I just take this year's expenditures, what we budgeted, you can see that we already had a deficit budget. If we do what I'm recommending today for a compensation plan, it's about 3.4. It's actually 3.2. I just ran some different numbers, so it's a little bit less than that number. And then the new staff that we did have to add, because we are opening the aquatic center, we added some special ed staff. We had to pick up some of the CAST staff that was on the CAST network grant that we used to get. And so that's around 2.1. So I'm sitting at $152 million going into next year for an expenditure budget. Still things that I'm working on. Transportation budget, I've already came to you once this year to add to that budget because of costs of all different types of things that are going on in the world today. F&M the same way. the aquatic center, even though I have a staff budget that's in that number, it's about $375,000 just in chemicals and supplies and things to run that complex. And then talked about officers, adding some officers. Adding officers will require to add some extra radios, some extra vehicles, and actually expand their budget, because a lot of their budget's overtime, because our officers are out there a lot, and I anticipate that they'll be out there a little bit more than normal. So that puts that at $153 million, and that puts us at 12.3. So with the compensation plan, with this extra staff that we've added, that'll put us at a deficit budget of $12,341,000. You kind of get the picture there. The one issue that we face that is, I think, is going to be a one-time issue, hopefully, is that when your ADA numbers, you don't submit those. 'Cause right now we're sending our numbers in that are the correct numbers, so they're getting them right now. But the state has been paying me like I had my old numbers, like so the 12.4 what we projected, they have those numbers and they pay us out on those numbers. And so when you come in lower than they projected, let's say I'm going to do the other way around. So let's say we had better numbers, they're going to settle up with me and give me more money next year. But if your numbers are lower, your ADA and stuff comes in lower, then they're going to take money back. And what I mean by taking money back, they don't tell us to send them a check. They just take it from you next year and say, hey, we overpaid you last year, so you're going to get this much less. And that's right now, I'm estimating, and they actually give me the picture of it, is about 6.7. And so that's the slide there that I keep monitoring. They keep updating it. As we give them more information, they start sending in this number and this number. If it's in the red, that means that we owe them. If it's in the black, it means they owe me or owe the district. So ways to remedy all this, we're working through it right now. Actually, in ESER 2, that number went to 4.7, so I've moved some employees out of the local budget. I'm going to continue to do that. So that number's at 4.7 of staffing central office people, mostly directors, EDs, anybody that's a specialist or professional. We're going to be funding out of ESER 2. ESER 3, we're funding teachers. We'll probably fund some extra teachers out of ESER 3 as well. And then the key that we'll have to deal with is that fund balance settle up. We may have to use fund balance to cover that part. The ESER funds will cover the 12 million. We're working on that. We'll be able to use the sub budgets. We'll put that into ESER 2, and we have about 9 million in ESER 2. Let me get to it here. And that's actually a little lower right now. We just did payroll this week. But we will spend out ESER 2 first. We'll probably spend all of that 9 million this next year. You can see that we already have 4.7 just in staff. And then in the plan, the compensation plan, I do have some stipends, the retention that we did. Because we're trying to want to be competitive with other districts. So I'm going to show you the strategy there where it looks, so you can see that we are in the top 2 when you put the stipends in there. And then you have ESER 3, we have about 19 million. And then as soon as we start spending down ESER 2, we're going to start really spending down ESER 3 as well. The goal is in 2 years from now, anything that we put into ESER that is a permanent position has to come back to our role at some point. And so that's where we have to strategize. And so we're going to have to really look at next year on our formulas. I know I shared with the board that I moved the formulas to really help campuses. So they didn't lose a lot of staff. But as their enrollment continues to decline, in places where it is declining, they're going to be subject to losing more teachers based on the formula, because we really don't have a choice. If we were in the black, we could figure out how to work it out, but as you move into the red, you're going to have to really stick by your formulas to do any damage to a deficit. Real quickly, why property values are important. We know we have growth in parts of the district based on the demographic study. We know you're going to have to do something at some campuses that need to be renovated. We know Legacy is going to need areas that are going to require some kind of addition. So we're going to need to do a bond here in the next 2 to 3 years to take care of some of these things. Possibly a new elementary and part of the district, some renovation projects, and then some safety upgrades and things like that. So part of property value growth, it helps you build capacity. One part of the rate is your INS rate, and the more values you grow on values, that rate allows you to have more debt capacity, in essence. And so we saw almost a $1.5 billion increase. And that's pretty significant for us because, like I said, we're going to start to see more revenue come from taxes than from the state. That being said, the old days of where we got funding for doing bond projects is gone because our values have grown so much. We used to get 60% covered by the state. Now it's almost completely gone. We were at 16% 2 years ago, and as we're working the formulas, we're projecting that we're not going to get anything.
When I first got here, we got 80.
80, yeah. See, that's
We
that's
barely,
good
I
money.
mean, yeah, we barely paid back.
So the strategy is that we're going to have to pay for this bond ourselves, and I say that the district taxpayers, and we've been pretty great with keeping the rate the same and not increasing taxes when we go out for bonds, and that's kind of like, well, who wants to raise taxes, right? Because everybody's dealing with appraised values right now, and so it's a hard sell to say, hey, I'm going to raise your tax rate, your values are going up, but we really need your help. So like, how can we help them as well? We will continue to compress our M&O rate. The state is making us, if we wanted to or not. And so that rate's going to continue to go down. So if you see here, right now our current rate is $1.37. And you can see that we're going to get compressed 3 pennies on the M&O side, just because our values went up. And the state's going to send that to me once we get the values in. But I'm anticipating that's what it's going to be. And then we can drop our INS rate a cent. And so we can drop our rate almost 3 to 4 cents there. 4 cents actually to $1.33. And so we haven't been $1.33 in a very long time as a district. So that's going to help taxpayers, given understanding that their appraised values are skyrocketing too. So we just have to be transparent. It's not us. We're actually trying to help. Our debt payment next year is $19.3 million. So that's a payment that we have to pay off our debt for our current bonds that we have. The strategy would be to keep that rate. We're going to lower the INS rate a little bit. But as a district, you can only keep a rate that pays off debt. So I can't put the rate higher and then get a bunch of money and put it in fund balance, right? So I can't, based on this rate here, based on our values, that 42 cents will generate us almost $24 million. So if we have the rate at 42.8, this rate, it'll be about 42, yeah. I'm sorry, did I say 42 million? I'm sorry, 24 million. About $24 million. And so the strategy would be next month to bring a resolution to do a defeasance. We've done this in the past where we're going to lower the rate a cent, but then we're going to pay off more debt. Paying off more debt is a good strategy for a school district to get more debt free, but then in 2024, 2025, we go out, we can go out for a bigger bond with more capacity because we have made room, just like when we do refundings. And so right now, based on the data that we have enough capacity to go out for 150 million if we needed to go out 150 million. 150 million might seem like a lot at this point, but right now you can't build an elementary for $8 million anymore. And elementaries are going for $34 to $40 million. So it sounds like a lot of money, but it really isn't in this world. And so, so I'm just showing this to the board because next month I will be bringing a recommendation for a resolution to do a defeasance to pay off some debt and just lower the tax rate, the INS side, by a penny. Questions on that? Because I just wanted to make sure I'm clear on there. All right. I did talk about budget assumptions. You have this in there. This is kind of the staff. Just want to make sure you're aware of who we added. Let's talk about compensation. So I've been running scenarios, a bunch of different scenarios, and kind of getting us to a point where it's budget neutral, but at the same time, it's increasing our wages. If you recall, last year we did a 2% for all professionals, and we did a 5% for our auxiliary staff. So the idea would be doing a 2% for all administrators, anybody that's central office and above, like assistant principals, directors, executive directors, assistant soups, and then do 3% for all our teachers, counselors, librarians, and nurses, and then 4% for all other staff, our hourly staff, our auxiliary, our bus drivers, and then our clerical. So by doing that, you can see that our budget is about $109 million is what our budget is for staff. So that's like almost 82% of our budget is going into our people. And just doing those three will put us at $3.2 million added to next year's budget. And that's where I got the number from. And so there you can see the total projected staff budget. Now, looking at it, I really wanted to, and I'm going to bring this back to you because I wanted to show you where we are at 5, 10, 15, and 20 comparison, right, years of teachers, because that does matter because we could be number 1 in year 3, but number 5 in year 5, right? It just depends on the scales. But right now, people have only said what they're doing, and they always put out what their starting salary is. So when you look it up and try to find it, they don't have their scales out yet. So I could only really use first-year teacher. So if you look at the first-year teacher, some significant increases by school districts was Judson, Southside, and East Central. East Central and Judson were way below us across the scale. So East Central and Judson were really way below us, and they did significant this year, and it's really about making up ground for where they weren't. And so they had to do something. And I don't anticipate them doing much next year or the year after, because we talk about a deficit budget. I know some of those districts are really struggling too. And so looking at this, a first-year teacher, if we did a 3% raise, would put our starting pay at $56,900. And I gave you two different scenarios because I did recommend $1,500, because last year we did 2 stipends. We did $1,000 at Christmas, $1,000 at the end of the school year. Anytime we give $1,000, we have over 2,100 employees, so it was over $2.1 million each go, and we did it out of ESSER. So we spent about $4.2 million out of ESSER last year just in those retention stipends. And so I bring this to the board as I'm going to need your feedback, so when we do the compensation and the actual get it approved later, what y'all really would like to do, because we could do like we just did this last year, and you can see where we rank. So if we did just the 2 like we did last year, that would put us at $58,900. Like a starting teacher would come in and make $58,900 next year. And then you can kind of see what everybody else did. It wouldn't catch Southside, but it would put us over Judson because they did their raise plus a stipend. And understand the stipends are a one-time increase, right? And so part of that is this won't be a reoccurring cost. And that's kind of why districts are doing this now. And so you can kind of see the difference. And so it kind of puts us back up in the top tier. And this is just the first year starting. I can't say this across the board for all the different, and I'll bring that back probably in August as I get everybody's skills in. But it does still keep us very competitive. And as we're recruiting and we're keeping our teachers, I know everybody's fighting for the same ones right now, but staying in the top 5, at least in most categories, is probably important. So that would be the recommendation. And so I put the scales in there for you. You can see the scales. So our starting teacher pay would be $56,900. Our starting for counselors would be $58,249. Our starting bus driver pay would be $17.30, one of the top as far as bus driver pays. And then you have the admin scales in there. We have the clerical and the auxiliary. The idea on the auxiliary and our hourly and our clerical is to move towards $15. We're not there yet. It's a huge increase. We were not as high on those scales, and so every year, like last year we did 5%, keep moving it. This year we're doing 4, maybe by next year do another 4 or 5 to get us at 15, so we don't all take it all at one time. Yeah, the 2 pay grades are like our lower pay grades are right like at 13 something right now. And so you can this is kind of our pay grade 1 there. You can see the auxiliary scale there. So we're getting closer. That used to be like $11, and so we've moved that, and we're going to continue to move it to 15.
What is pay grade 1?
Pay grade 1 is like a bus aide, cafeteria worker, custodian, security guard, and so keep moving those closer to the $15 an hour. Because at the same time, there's a lot of employees, not just teachers, that we're fighting for as well, bus drivers and custodians and different groups that out in the market, we got to stay competitive, not only with other districts, but with just out here.
Southside has them starting at $15 an hour across the board.
Correct.
So.
Yeah, I think they used all their funds to cover this big increase, and
All the ESSER funds?
I'm assuming.
Well, from what I gathered, when I was watching, they did a big old presentation on them on Channel 12. That says that they were leveraging they were supplementing leveraging for activities from their general operating fund. So they were supplementing like
ESSER,
from ESSER, they were supplementing from Title I, Title 11, they were figuring out, and it was figuring out the budget to where it was leveled out to where we could supplement at different areas. Like say if it's a pre-K teacher, like we have that pre-K for SA.
Correct.
It's partially funded by pre-K for SA, and then the other part was this. So then our pay increase may happen a little bit bigger for pre-K for SA teachers versus the regular teacher. And that's why I was when I heard the news and they were elaborating on it, I was like, whoa, they're using their functions to help them, like their function 41, function 40, like everywhere to supplement. I don't know if that's something we can get in contact with Southside to see how they're.
I know the CFO over there. I can talk to him. I know that he's doing similar to what we're doing. Like he's replacing his sub budget with ESSER funds, and so that's freeing up extra revenue to give more raises. Some districts,
weren't impacted as much as, like, I mean, our EDA last year is what kind of hurt us. Some districts bounced back, some districts didn't. We're just gonna have to figure that part out, because right now, we're leveraging our ESSER funds to make up deficits to keep what we have. And that's what's compounding us, is keeping what we have, but also wanting to give raises and that staff. I mean, it's
Yeah, I
give and take.
understand.
Yeah.
It's tough.
So there's some minimal changes on the stipend agreements. Where's that sheet at? So in here, I know that one study I had the athletic department do is comparison, so it's in there too. So we made some adjustments to some of the coaches' stipends because
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
Because where do stipends come, where do we fund these stipends from? I know
Sti-
we function all the like teaching part from coaches teaching in the high school to but where do the stipends?
most of these stipends are coming from the general fund as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, most stipends, there's a few stipends that, like if you're a title teacher, like an academic coach on a campus, they're title funded and we fund their stipend out of title. And like our literacy coach will be funded from our comp ed, because that's one of them in here is adding a stipend for the literacy coach. So some of our programs cover those, but a lot of them, like your fine arts and your athletics, you can't use any of your external funds or federal funds to cover stipends for those groups. So those are going to come from your general fund. So really, there's minimal changes to most of the stipends. There's a stipend for a literacy coach that we didn't have previously that's at the elementary. There's a few changes to the fine arts. I think we're trying to add some middle school dance. So we're going to create a stipend to do that. There's an art lead teacher there. We did a comparison to some of our coaches. Really, we've done a study for the coaches in the past, and it was mostly like baseball, basketball, those groups. We didn't touch football, so this time we're looking at the football stipends. So you can kind of see in there, there's a comparison to all the districts and what they're paying their stipends out. So those were adjusted. There's some stipends in there, like Cass High School. Every teacher was getting $10,000 from the Cass network. Well, we're no longer getting funded by that, so we've decreased it to $5,000. But what's different than in the past is many of the Cass teachers are getting their stipend for the summer because they work summer school. So we're not paying them a summer school rate. So they're just doing summer school, and then we're paying them the stipend, and then they do their summer bridge, and we pay them the stipend for that part. So instead of using this, I can use ESSER funds to pay them to do the $40 an hour to be a summer school teacher. And so they pretty much will make up that $5,000 over the summer. If they want to work summer school and they want to do their summer bridge that they have.
Wait,
Yes.
the CAS STEM teachers were getting a $10,000 stipend from the CAS network?
They were funded by the Cass network for the first 4 years. Every teacher that we hired got a $10,000 additional stipend. Now, and then the principal of Cass would come up with their criteria on how they earned it. They still had to earn it. They just didn't get it. It wasn't like, okay, you're a teacher here, you're going to get $10,000. They set up criteria. So they have like a stipend agreement. The first semester, you got to meet certain requirements, and then you get $2,500. Same thing the second semester. And then when you got into summer, you had to work summer school, or you had to do some kind of PBL with students, and then you had to do the summer bridge. And so decreasing that to $5,000, we would still cover it, because it's hard to take $10,000 away from somebody, because they really wouldn't be able to make that up in the school year. But in the summer, they can make it up if they want to work summer school at Cass and they want to do summer bridge.
So wait a minute, we're gonna still pay the CAS STEM teachers $5,000 stipend,
If they meet their criteria.
right? But the Southwest High School teachers,
The
are
Southwest-
they getting a
No,
stipend?
they didn't get a stipend. They did.
The idea about CAS STEM teachers, the whole concept of the CAS STEM module is it's a longer day.
Can be one.
It's an extended week in a lot of cases. I wish
Jump
people
over.
came up
And
with-
also,
They don't go to school the same amount of time as the high school?
well, the teachers that are, I know most of the professors, well, the teachers there, they're considered sometimes professors because they're teaching dual credit classes, so they have more than one prep. I know some of those teachers there have up to 9 preps or 8 preps for different classes or different kind of, versus if you were going to teach history at Southwest, you may have 1 prep or 2 preps. And that's when the stipends come into play, when you have a teacher who's having 9 preps for different classes.
So if I could speak to that, because I got to fill in for Nicole Cathy as the DOS for CAS this year, and this was a problem that Reve brought to me, that she knew that the CAS portion of that was coming down, so we actually looked at the funding. And so they're required to do tutoring. It's mandatory for them to do certain hours of tutoring. We don't pay them. They don't get paid tutoring. It's covered in their stipend. They are also required to have 2 clubs every professional has to have 2 clubs that meets a certain amount of time before or after school for them, and they don't get stipend for any of those clubs. In addition to that, they do the summer school, and we pay all the other teachers that work summer school. They're mandatory that they work summer school. And so this
That's
will
covered
also
by the
cover all
stipends.
of that and all their professional development that is also required for them, including going to on-site externships, so that way that they're job ready with industry partners. So there is a list, as Brandon was saying, that they have to meet. And if they don't make those criteria, if they were sick and they missed a portion of it, they don't get their full stipend. But from what we've worked out with Reve before she left, and I'll be meeting with Jackie, it is conducive to the amount of time that anybody would get paid if they tutored 2 hours a week, this many students for 45, and what they would work summer. The $5,000 is a reasonable cost for all of that.
Okay.
So we'll probably we'll bring this stipend back, because I didn't hear I have it as 5,000 and that they would work summer school and work bridge and we'd pay them just like all the other teachers. But I'll get with Francis and we'll get with Jackie and we'll work it out so that we're going to give them an opportunity to earn $10,000. Just how we get there is going to be how we're going to have to figure that out.
We can bring that whole thing, no problem back.
Yeah, I'd like that.
that.
Okay.
So, and then lastly in there is the retention stipend. So right now I have it as 1,500. It's really up to the board, y'all's preference. If y'all want to do one, we can do one. We can do two. But you kind of saw where we are as far as the other districts on what we. I know like in the past, one year we did one. Last year we did two. We could do 1,500. Just so you know, just so you can put numbers to it. For every 2,100 employees, every $1,000 we give out is 2.1 million. So if you go to 1,500 or 3,000, you're going to probably spend about 5.5 million in just giving out those stipends.
And is that 5.5 million already in the
That much,
projected?
that's not going to hit our general fund. That's going to hit
right.
that's going to hit the ESSER budgets. I mean, you can see if I'm spending 4.7 in salaries and then I'm spending 5 in another retention, those monies will go pretty quickly. I mean, that's the thing that, and we have to spend it. They're there to be spent. And if we're going to spend it, we're going to spend it on employees, because that's where we spend a lot of our money. Because we know times are tough and inflation and all that. It's really going to be y'all's preference on that.
So are we giving out the incentives based on the fact that we have the extra additional money?
In the past, we did it out of fund balance. And so we set some criteria. You got to be hired, and then by October 31st, and you have to meet the criteria. And really, that's it. And you have to finish your contract at the end of May, and you have to make this certain date that you finish the year. So other than that, previously we'd done it out of fund balance, because the board, there was a year we didn't give a raise, and that's what we did. And right now we do have those additional funds, so it's really up to y'all. You don't have to decide right now. We can talk about it when it gets to the agenda item, because I actually have an agenda item. And even then, I'm more in the 2, 3, and the 4 award. I'm more asking the board to recommend it to the board so that we can get approved, so we can move forward with budget. That's a huge budget item. Those numbers, I have to get them in there and keep working those numbers once those get put in. And then we can always revisit the retention stipend.
And the 2, 3, and 4, that's in the budget?
That's in the budget, so that's reflected, that 3.2 million added. And then once we get it going, we'll start. The reason why, to be fully transparent, my payroll person has been at the border serving his state for the whole year. So we're trying to get this done earlier so that we can make sure we have payroll right when we start school. Because we need extra time, because he was the one that did that for us. So we're trying to get this compensation plan done so that we can start going in, making sure everybody's pay is correct, and we have to go line by line. That's 2,100 employees, and make sure that they're all getting the right compensation. So that's really why we're bringing the recommendation today. And it's an agenda item, so it's not part of the item's information.
Okay.
All right.
Do you have
So for
any
beginner
questions?
teachers, our goal is always stay in the top 4. Right? I think by fact that we've been 1 or 2. Well, Brandon Wrought put us ranked number 2 based on the information.
With the retention.
Based on what I saw, some of those things that have question marks on the different districts, have they approved a budget or they have
So-
a pay rate?
So I'm going to give you, Medina Valley, Jason's there. Jason worked with us. Our strategy was kind of always wait to the end, see what everybody did, and try to jump. So I think he's been doing that to us this whole time. So I'm pretty sure Medina Valley is going to do 2 or 3 and try to get.
Because I don't see Alamo Heights up there.
No, well, Alamo Heights down here. they're down here. SID and down the heights, I mean,
They might decide to go up again.
yeah, so to be full transparency, north side, kind of the south side districts and Medina Valley are real competition for teachers. That's where people live. So we kind of need to stay within those three. Like Judson, I don't think we lose a lot of teachers in Judson because it's really far, unless they live over there, which is, I mean, they make up the difference with travel.
But those districts have not been giving great raises
Correct.
in the past, so,
Correct.
this might be a one-time thing in a while for them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any more questions for me? All right.
Thank you,
you.
Brandon.
Please repeat that?
Yeah.
That was very, very good presentation. Thank
you.
2022-2023 employee handbook. Who's doing that? Oh.
Yes, we have Mr. Will Baker, who is going to touch on some of the highlights. Not page by page,
What
we've
page is
been here
that?
for a long
Uh,
time.
It's
So
89.
we have this Will Baker, who's gonna
Isn't working the way
cover
it should.
very
On the
quickly,
scroll.
2 minutes,
You want an agenda?
the changes that you have to the
They would have to print it.
2022-2023 handbook.
Oh, wait, agenda, no.
On the screen.
Yeah, I do need an agenda, actually.
Good evening, board members. Appreciate you giving us some time. There are very few changes. This was not a year where we had the legislative session, so they made very few changes to our handbook. TASB usually prepares us a model, and then we go in there and put our local stuff into it. Ms. Levery worked very hard with my coordinator, Ms. Lopez, to put this together, and I appreciate the hard work they put into it. Just a slight, with the ESSA law from the federal government, if we have a non-certified person or somebody on an emergency permit in a classroom for 4 weeks, we'll have to send a letter home to the parents, letting people know that. It used to be like 30 days, now it's down to 4 weeks. Medical certifications, there's language in there when the district might ask an employee for a medical certification on their return from work or when they go on to the FMLA. And that's added into the handbook. We also put a section in there, there's some special rules about police and the leave that police can take, and we put that in there, Ms. Liberty put that in. Payment for accumulated leave, we put that, also was added in there, the rules upon retirement. You have to have at least 5 years with the district, you have to retire from the district, and you have to give the district 90-day notice that you're going to retire in order to get that payment for that accumulated leave. And the daily rate is that of the payment, so what you would get per day that you have, that is established by the board. And Brandon can talk to you more. Last year, I think we set that at 150. If you have if you're an employee and you use your private, let's say your cell phone, or let's say you use an iPad and it belongs to you, and you do school business on it, we have the right as a district to go and get that information that is stored on your phone, and that's made very explicit in the new handbook. It also goes over in detail of how someone needs to resign, so the board sets someone that is designated to take resignation, and that's Mr. Rodriguez, the deputy superintendent. And so we put in there that those resignations must be turned into the deputy, and they have to be signed and dated. And then it talks about that period of time where you can resign without penalty. And then that's at 45 days before the first day of instruction. If you resign at another part of the year, you have to get permission for the superintendent or the board. And that's all the changes there are. So was that fast?
Good job,
Thank you, Will. How about the student and parent handbook?
Okay, so now, Adrian, now you know which way we're headed. Okay, so Adrian is here to give us just the updates on the student parent handbook.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Versa, senior leaders. The student and parent handbook for 22-23, the 22-23 school year has been developed. The handbook actually serves and continues to serve as a general reference guide for students and parents. In developing the handbook, it actually went out to leaders in different departments and divisions across the district so that they could look closely at sections that related to their programs, that were tied to their particular programs, so that they could make any necessary changes. in the information that was in the handbook. So some of those changes are actually listed and have been summarized for you. And some changes, again, there weren't a whole lot, but there was some changes, especially in wording. But there was the addition of some information regarding a new attendance code for severe illness. There was some information about child nutrition also and returning to CET and not continuing with the summer seamless option. And there was also some information regarding changes in exam dates along with updates in immunization requirements for students in K through 12. So the process that was actually used for the handbook, we actually used the TASB model as well. We also referenced board policy and the student code of conduct just to ensure consistency and alignment across the board. So, are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving to item 7, we're gonna postpone A, B, and C until after closed session, but moving to item D, consider TASB Board of Directors endorsement.
Yes, Board, this is an action that the board can choose to take or not of endorsing a candidate who I believe that all of you provided as a nomination for TASB. And so it's for Region 20 position D. It's Mr. Robert Westbrook from Church Civil of Universal City ISD. And so the recommendation is that the board endorse or not your recommendation for Mr. Westbrook for that position.
I move.
I second.
We have a first and a second. Any questions? He's the only one nominated, and he's the only one anyway, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor say yes.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you. Thank you. Administration and Human Resource, consider approval of resolution on COVID-related extended leave regulations.
And just because Will likes to get up and speak to you guys, we're gonna cover, COVID and then the next part. As you know, every single year, we come with, potential to have some, COVID relief for our employees that actually have COVID. And so last year you were gracious enough to give them 5 days. And so this year we are asking for 3 days. A lot of districts have gone to 0, and we thought this was a way of going right in the middle and doing a medium between that. So we're asking for the board to approve for 3 days of related, COVID-related extended leave.
I move.
Okay, so, right now the guideline is what, 5 days?
So that ended in June.
Okay.
And so we have no guidelines.
No
right
guidelines.
now.
Okay.
So what we're asking is for the school year to add 3.
Okay, and just, you know, God forbid that we get another serious thing, we can revisit and move from 3 to whatever we would think is better.
Yes, and everybody also gets their sick leave and
Right.
everything else that they can use. But yes, if something, we could always come back.
And revisit, okay. All right, we have a first and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you. Consider approval of workers' compensation provider.
And so.
Is that right?
Here you go, Will. Hello. At this time of year, we always bring to you the TASB Risk Management Fund, going ahead and continuing with our, providing our workers' compensation. Ms. Levy provided for you in the board background a kind of summary of the expenses over the last year and compared that to the years before that. We did have an uptick this year. There were what we say were probably about 5 serious claims that caused the claims to go up this year. But with saying that, we feel like TASB provides us appropriate service in this area, and we're asking the board to approve TASB to provide workman's comp for the next year.
Okay.
I move.
I second.
Any questions, board? If not, all those in favor say yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Consider the approval of the district strategic plan.
So we have a finalized copy of our district strategic plan. It is in your board book for you. We have not made any changes since the last time that we brought it to you, but we are ready to go forward and adopt our district strategic plan with the 3 goals. And each of them have 3 strategic actions. They are based on our commitment to results, commitment to growth, and commitment to service. And so with this adoption, then we would be able to push this out in this next school year to all of our staff. Later on, we will come back to you to bring the scorecard, which will have the individual growth goals that we will share out with the community and that we will be held to for accountability and monitoring. And so that will come at a later time once our accountability numbers have been set, so that way we can establish goals with true data.
Thank you.
I really like this.
I move.
It's concise and easy to remember, instead of when people ask us what is our strategic, we're like, let me.
We had some great parent groups that gave us a lot of feedback on that, and there was a lot of work from curriculum instructions group, HR, business finance, communications, did a really good job. So we thank everybody who participated in all that, including the surveys the year before, all the way through. So we hope that we did a great representation for the district.
I think you did. Great. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor from Mr. Bernal. Do we have a second? Mr. Daniel seconds. All those in favor say yes.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you. Let's see. Consider approval of the student code of conduct.
So now I have Adrian.
Okay.
Coming back.
The student code of conduct for the 22-23 school year has also been developed. This, the code of conduct provides information regarding expectations for student behavior and consequences for misconduct. And the code of conduct, like the handbook, has also seen very few changes. A lot of the changes that you'll notice in the summary of the changes really deal with just clarity in language, providing clarity regarding some of the language. There was one that that I wanted to point out, and that was the language that explicitly prohibits the use of cell phones to film other students or staff members. And so we'll definitely be using that as part of the trainings that we do with our campus team. So at this time, what we'd like to do is, we actually did use the Walsh Gallegos for consultation, and we did use the TASB model as well for development of this coming year's student code of conduct. So at this time, we'd like to recommend that the board approve the 2022-2023 student code of conduct.
Thank you. Board, do we have a motion?
I move.
I second.
Any questions?
I got one question. When it means for zero tolerance in our code of conduct for zero tolerance, what is the criteria for zero tolerance? I mean, is it like, do we have a standard to say zero tolerances and we pretty much alleviate them from the, like, do we expel them? Do we reprimand them? Like, I'm trying to understand that zero tolerance.
There are some, I'm sure Adrian can speak better, there are some mandatory expulsion issues that, and we cover this with all of our administrators. The zero tolerance, our student code of conduct takes into consideration intent. And so if you do a zero tolerance, then you don't get to look at intent. So if a youngster made a mistake and there was something that was placed in his backpack from an outing and it came to school, we would have to zero tolerance mandatorily send that student. So using the fact that we do use intent whenever we investigate a situation, that means that we look at the facts, we look at the data, and we look to see if something was brought within to it or not, and make decisions based on that. So we do not, there are mandatory expulsion offenses that we do have we do have expulsion actions that go with them, and those are outlined within our chapter 37 kind of DEA back.
Thank
I don't
you.
know if I addressed that correctly. I
No,
know
you all
living
did.
in every day, you know.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you. Consider approval of the Southwest ISD District of Innovation Plan.
So Southwest Independent School District has developed a District of Innovation Plan that identifies certain requirements of that are imposed by Education Code from which we are seeking exemptions. And those exemptions are listed, those requirements and exemptions are listed in our new plan. As part of the development of this new plan, we actually had a district innovation plan committee come together, develop the plan based on the exemptions that we were requesting or we were outlining, and also share the plan that was developed with, in a couple of public meetings, public hearings. There was a public meeting with parents. We've also shared information with board members. The District of Innovation Plan has also been posted on our district website to solicit feedback and input also. In addition, as part of the development, and we did follow the steps for adopting or approving a new District of Innovation Plan, we also informed the Commissioner of Education of our board's intention to vote on and adopt a new innovation plan. So at this time, what we're asking is that the plan, would actually, the term of the plan would be from the 2022-2023 school year through the 26-27 school year. And so at this time, we're asking that the board adopt the District of Innovation Plan that has been developed.
I move.
I second.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. Any other questions on that? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you. Consider approval of the 2022-2023 Memorandum of Understanding between Bexar County Juvenile Board and Southwest ISD.
So as noted in Education Code, Chapter 37, Southwest Independent School District and the Bexar County Juvenile Justice Academy do develop a memorandum of understanding that outlines the responsibilities and parameters of the Bexar County Juvenile Justice Alternative Education Program. And so this is a requirement under Texas Education Code, Chapter 37, and it pertains to students who actually violate the Student Code of Conduct under mandatory or discretionary regulations. And these students are actually assigned to the BCJJ at an approximate expense of $135.85 per day per student, for a total of approximately $150,000 per school year. And so what we're asking is the board approve the 2022-2023 Memorandum of Understanding between Bexar County Juvenile Board and Southwest Independent School District.
I move.
Okay, did you hear Daniel second? Do we know how much we spent last year, just roughly?
It was pretty minimal. I
Like-
can get you numbers, but right now, I mean, this year we're spending more than we did last year. I think our bill's like $2,200 a month.
So we don't exceed
Okay.
that 150,000.
No, we haven't, I've never seen it spent, we're supposed to have a budget for it, you never know,
Yeah.
but we haven't spent that much.
How many kids did we send last year? Do we know?
Approximately seven.
Seven?
Approximately.
Okay. All right, so we have the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you. Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you.
Business and Finance, consider approval of change order number 2 to the Aquatic Center project.
Yes, ma'am, I know, in a couple of board meetings, we've been meeting, we've been talking about, upgrading and implementing a golf facility at the aquatic center. In our last report, we kind of mentioned where we'd like to place that. I don't know if you've ever seen, I think I put it in the packet, the PDF of kind of what it would look like. There's some pictures there, some facilities that are across the city, some others that are, I think, university based. To kind of give you an idea what it would look like, and then creating a putting green, a chipping green, and then some bays where the kids get into like a driving range. Not just space to put it, actual driving range. And so in this, well, I actually should turn over to Bill, I'm still on his thunder. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir. All right, Mr. Barajas is here to present this topic.
Go ahead, Rafael.
Okay, so as he mentioned, our district golf teams really don't have a facility, so they have to travel out, and it all depends on availability. So what we did is reach out to the construction and design team already doing the aquatic center to provide us a cost proposal as well as a design. What they came up with was a facility that's about 4,200 to 4,600 square feet, 5 driving bays, 5 pitching bays, putting green and a pitching green to be used in the same site. Together with that, We also are coming to you, this is a second parter. In addition to that scope, we are also running into unpredictable fluctuations in market due to construction of the aquatic center. We have done all of the items that we can to accommodate with contingency. However, because of short or long delays of items, material increases, our contingency is depleting. So on top of the additional scope, we're also coming as a change order for additional money to complete the aquatic center. Marvin Mock has prepared a change order number 2 to increase the project GMP, again, due to the increase of scope of the facility and in order to accommodate the additional cost of construction. The amount will be for $600,000 to be funded out of bond saving funds.
That's just
And this is to add the golf facility?
Yes, to add the
How
facility.
many districts in San Antonio have this facility?
We went and visited Piper, which is Comala ASD.
So nobody here in San Antonio has it?
Not that we know of, I
Right.
haven't visited campuses, but this would be.
It'll be the first to start
Yeah, one of
with.
the first, especially, I don't think any teams at the south side, because we always see the teams at the south side have the same complex as our teams.
When I
But is
think-
it actually beneficial, I mean, considering the ranges that it is that they practice on, long span?
Well, right now, they don't go every day, especially during the off season, so you'll see the golf team at the river bottom chipping and trying to putt in the bottom over there.
Do they not have a contract anymore with the facility?
We do, but it's hard for some of the coaches that coach golf or coaching other sports, so they can't leave every day to take.
You gotta transportate them over there.
Yeah, take them on the buses to go do golf, so, like, one of the coaches at the high school is a basketball coach, so during basketball season, the golf team doesn't practice hard at all. This would allow them to, like, work in the morning, have to come in early at the aquatic center, work out with the coach, and then coach basketball.
So
And then
did-
you're at the mercy of the golf course.
So I don't
When,
understand why they would have a coach that is coaching another sport, also coach a sport when it overlaps.
Cause
The golf's pretty much yearly.
Yeah.
They have tournaments.
So there's two, you're saying there's two, ones to cover down on the aquatic expenses, right, you said? And then the other part is to add on, so it's like 300,000, you said? So 300,000 is gonna get us the golf
Correct.
expansion.
Yes, sir. The other three is to cover, basically, we sat down with Doris and Marlock and talked about, worked through the budget and came to an agreement that we think is fair, based on the things that happened.
And this is all the funding for this is gonna come from our savings, from the leftover bond funds.
And
So-
one thing that we went in length is everything that's a price increase, really on a perfect world, we would have come back and given money back to the district or paid for the facility itself. It's just, it's kind of unprecedented. It's pretty
Well,
construction.
it's
right now.
basically a good idea to add on to the aquatic center, because you told the people you're building aquatic center.
Right.
And we bonded out for aquatic center. Now you're adding on to the bond, and with everything, we're trying to finish out. I think it's a good idea to put back the money into the aquatic center and adding on, so that way it's still going into the aquatic center.
yeah,
So I
it's not
move.
fund balance, it's just,
The idea to, our long proximity to these type of amenities are not in our backyard. We think having that facility there, kind of front and center, that will encourage more youth to get engaged and possibly take that school experience a little bit further and get
Include
engaged.
the golf.
in that sport.
Rafael, is that gonna be turf or is that gonna be
It's
regular
gonna
gas?
be turf, yes,
Or
sir.
there's gonna be all this turf?
Yes, sir. And we actually asked districts or Piper as well, whether, they had both facilities. They had a full driving range and a field turf where it's cages, and they said they would build the turf.
Okay, I'll
driving
second.
range
I'll
anytime
second.
again.
did we, okay. So we have a first and a second. Any more questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you. Consider approval of 2022-2023 compensation plan.
So earlier, I presented the compensation plan, recommending a 2% for all admin professional, 3% for our teachers, nurses, librarians, and counselors, and 4% for all other staff. Within the compensation plan, I do have the stipend package with all the adjustments. Really, the only pending thing, if the board is okay with the other recommendations, is the retention stipend, whether you want it at 1,000, at 1,500, or you want to do one or two. Right now, the recommendation would be, well, I guess really it's, if you have, let's say you put them together, so like doing two is $2,000 to an employee and doing two 1,500 is $3,000 to an employee. One will cost you about $4 million, the other out of Bexar, and the other would cost you about $5.5 out of Bexar. So that's the difference.
So this says two $1,000 stipends. So if we want to change it to 1,500, we do that right now?
Right now, you could put it in minutes.
Can I
Okay.
move on that 1,500?
Wait 1 second.
But if we're taking this out of ESSER, once that's gone, we have to.
Well, once ESSER, these will be a one-time payment, so
Yeah.
like, this won't be reoccurring, so even next year, I mean, if we have money in ESSER next year, we'll do something as well, but.
If
for this
not,
year-
then it's not like a, what do you
Yeah,
call
it's not a
that?
reoccurring
Yeah,
cost. Now,
reoccurring.
the 2 and the 3 and 4 are,
Yeah.
that's why
Yes.
it's cheaper, yeah.
It's a retention stipend, so it's like a one-time deal for the year.
Yeah, okay.
So I would like to move on one.
So do you want to make the motion that we do the 1,500
Yes, I moved that we move a 1,500
twice?
and twice.
Okay, and then the recommended raises?
Yes, 3%, 4%, and
2%.
2%.
Okay, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the 2, 3, and 4% raises and a 2-time payment of $1,500 per employee that meet the criteria as a retention bonus. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and that the compensation plan also includes the stipend schedule for all district employees?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
All right, so any questions on that? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Thank you. Okay. Curriculum and instruction, consider approval of new secondary courses for the fall of 2022.
Yes, for 22-23, we would like to add to our course catalog 3 courses, and we have provided that where we have cybersecurity for our early college high school, and then we also have health and science as we continue to add to that pathway. And we also have animal science, as this will now be a practicum. It will extend the experience for the students in that animal science vet program that we have. So we are asking for the board to approve these 3 courses this evening.
Okay.
Approving the cybersecurity foundation to the main school, does that mean that they're going to, it's gonna take the place of something that isn't used, or have we managed to consolidate some of those offerings that they had, or it's just gonna add on to whatever it is?
So this is a course that will be new, since now we are also going to be getting funding for it. It will be under our CTE. And so since we have early college, high school, this will be a great way for us to now just being able to give that experience in the middle school. This way the students at both high schools can later on experience this, not at the high school, but an early start. So this will be a brand new course that will also be funded through CTE, which is a win-win for the school district and for the students.
Yeah.
I move.
Okay. All right, we have a first and a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Thank you. I would like to ask a quick question. On the master schedule, the thing that they're always talking about, how difficult that is to do, I'd like a brown bag on that. Like, maybe if we could just follow a couple of kids, incoming freshmen, their schedule, and letting us know how they, you know, if they pick a certain pathway, how we know everything
For your
they're
plan.
taking goes, you know what I mean? I'd kind of like a better understanding of that. Not how to write a master schedule, but what
Yes.
goes into the process of the thinking.
We'll include the information for you on the presentation within the school.
Yeah,
Yes.
something a little, yeah, I think, I'd like to understand that a little better.
Yeah, and that timeline, like Dr. Russell was mentioning, it starts early in October, down to the data entry and what the students then get. And then we have in the 4-year plan. So it is a 4-year plan that the students,
Okay.
as a freshman, get.
So just information on a brown
Yes.
bag, that'd be nice. Okay, consider approval of walkthrough observation form.
Yeah, so last year we brought before you an observation form that we worked with at Direction, which is through our grant with the state, which is through the Resilient School Supports Program. And so last year, we recommended that we would do a walkthrough form that would add some components that the district is following through with coaching and feedback. This year, what we did is we heard a lot of input from the principals. We took them through a training also during Principal Case Week. And then we did have a conversation with them as far as what was working and what we needed for us to come back and reconsider. So as part of this review that we're bringing in front of you, this will be an evaluation form that will also be part of their end of the year evaluation. And so instead of it just being one component of the work that teachers are required to learn and implement and deliver, now we're doing the evaluation piece, which is T-test, adding some components of that, and then adding the new training, which is Get Better Faster, along with last year's work, which was RSSP, the Resilient School Supports Program, through our consultants with that direction. So now we're collaborating with talent management, our DOSes, and CNI, and we're putting all this work together versus the teachers having to look at one tab and another tab and another tab, and the administrators too, to know what good delivery of instruction is and what they're required to produce and plan for.
And did we get some feedback from our teachers about the evaluation process?
So the evaluation process, that would be a whole different, but that will be something that we've had for the years past, which is a T-test.
Okay.
So was there any differences from the principals at different areas? Like say we have McCullough and Scobie, and did they collaborate? And is there some similarities, or are we gonna have it so it's just straight on one point? Or do we have two different ones, like one for McCullough, one for Scobie?
So now we're calling this the one walkthrough.
Oh, okay.
And it's for a reason, because the principals have had like their favorite, go-to platform. And so after getting a lot of feedback from them, one, it was a little cumbersome for them to even follow through with what we had put together last year, which was just even getting online and finishing it. And so this year, we're considering that what is gonna be the best user-friendly way for the administrators to complete it, and at the same time, for them to quickly give feedback to the teachers, for the teachers to know when the administrator walked in, this is what I saw, and the teachers will be able to get that feedback right there and then.
It's great to have a systemic form, it's a good idea.
I move.
A second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you. Dr. Bursta, do you have anything before we go into closed session?
Yes, board members, you have in front of you some activities that are going on here in the near future. Immunization drive in Creek that's taking place tomorrow. There's also from 2 to 4 p.m. at Southwest High School, a Southwest ISD Human Resource Job Fair that's happening, and staff will be there. Our administrative retreat this year will take place at the Gulfport, Texas, August 1st through the 4th, but 1st through the 3rd for the larger group, and that is from 8 to 4:30. I believe that Ms. Garcia either handed out invitations to the board or will be here this evening, inviting you to the 3rd, where we actually have a really great couple of keynote speakers who are going to be there leading that. We also, I think, on there has the itinerary to the kind of big milestones that we'll be working on as an administrative retreat. We expect 125 of our campus and district-wide administration and counselors and teacher leaders to be in that arena as well. Also on August 11th, we have the ribbon cutting ceremony for our new Southwest Aquatic Center, 9 a.m. To 10 a.m. And we also, on that same day, we try to make it where we didn't have to board and drive back days, but this is that time of year. After that, we also have our new teacher luncheon that'll take place at McNair at 11:30, where we get to introduce our new staff to Southwest ISD, to our board, and also have that conversation with them. And please mark your calendars for August 17th for the district convocation, Southwest High School Mall at 8:30. It's like it's around the corner. We'll be ready.
Yeah.
Are we not having a brown bag in August?
Excellent point. I'd love to see about that in a few minutes.
Okay.
Yes, we're going to request to move that 1 week so
Okay.
that we can do our administrative retreat and do our brown bag on August the 9th.
August the 9th? Okay. Okay. So that's all. So now we'll go into closed session? Yes? Okay. So, where's my paper?
On page 2.
Where's my paper? Oh, here we go. All right, as permitted by sections 551.001-551.146, of the Texas Government Code, the Open Meetings Law, and we'll go into closed session. Is that all I had to say? We'll go back into open session at 8:26. Going back to item A under closed session.
Is that it? Oh, I move that we approve the superintendent's recommendation on personnel.
I second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you. Item B, pursuant to section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code, we will approve the superintendent's contract. I need a motion.
I move.
I second. Okay, James, you
Flo-
can have it.
No, go ahead.
Flo second. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you. Let's see. Deliberation and consultation with school attorney regarding possible settlement of anticipated litigation before a special education hearing office for the state of Texas. So we discussed that in closed session. I need a motion.
I move.
I second.
Call it out. Which one?
Pete, one, Flo, two.
Flo's got it.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And we did not discuss real property, correct? Okay. All right, Dr. Verstiff, you have anything else?
Yes, so, board.
Oh, wait,
yes.
wait, I'm
You're
sorry.
gonna run the-
I'm sorry. We have an item listed at the very bottom. It was a duplicate item. We've already discussed and moved on that, so we're removing that from the bottom of the agenda.
So now it gives me
Yes.
a really great pleasure to introduce our newest elementary principal and joining the Southwest ISD family, Miss Monique Lotta. So, Ms. Lotta, so we told Ms. Lotta that principals at Sun Valley, they stay for 10 years, so she's
Yes.
committed for 10 years at least. Then we'll talk about it again, but she did an exceptional job coming into our district and our system, and she ran the marathon. She's a great selection. She's going to do phenomenal things. So we're very proud to have you join our family. Ms. Lotta.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
That's all you have? Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for waiting for us to come out, and welcome to our family, and to your family, welcome to Southwest. And the meeting will be adjourned at
8:30.
8:29.